Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV and your Liverpool news update. My name is Dan Clubb and I'm here to talk about all that fun stuff that was the VAR fallout from the weekend, of course. Now, we are Wednesday morning here in the UK in Liverpool, and yet still it rumbles on and on and on. I don't think it's quite done yet. Of course, late last night or relatively early in the evening last night, depending on where you are, the audio was released by the PGMOL upon Liverpool's request. Now, Liverpool got that audio a little bit earlier on in the day. I guess they took their own time to examine it, sort of assess what their next move might be, and then a little bit later on, Howard Webb and his mates and his cronies at the PGMOL decided they'd release it to the world via Premier League Communications, I think it was, on Twitter. So we could all hear it in all its glory, or not, as the case may well have been. So yeah, let's talk about the audio. How's it made you feel about the whole situation? I've run through some of the key points from it and some of the more damning quotes and sentences, some of which don't even make sense, some of which aren't even sort of basic rudimental English level. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what Liverpool might do next, of course. I'll touch on the Curtis Jones appeal, which has been dismissed. His suspension has been upheld, of course. He will miss 3 games. Talk about that, talk about what our thoughts are. But yeah, let's get into it then. First up, I'll come through some of the comments in the chat. Scott Harris says, as soon as the ball did not go back to the centre circle for kickoff, they should have been saying, hang on, it's a goal. Plenty of time to have done that. Ewan Campbell says, this makes it even worse. What a farce. Yeah, absolutely, what a farce. Michael Martin, I just hope Liverpool keep pushing with this. So glad Liverpool don't keel over like most Prem teams and let them get away with it. Proud of LFC. Yeah, it's interesting that, because it was fascinating to me the other day. The narrative shift, it literally span on a sixpence. Gary Neville was at the heart of this, of course, because originally everyone had loads of sympathy for Liverpool, saying it was just a horrendous decision and just how bad it was, and Liverpool had been robbed, it was an injustice, etc., etc. And then as soon as Liverpool released their statement, their relatively strong-worded statement, saying, no, we're not just going to let this lie, like we're exploring options, sporting integrity, those kind of phrases, literally every single journalist, essentially, outside the Liverpool sphere, I should say, said, what are they on about? Like, just get on with it. You know what I mean? Like, everyone gets hard done by VAR sometimes. I mean, the whole whataboutery and people sort of tweeting about, well, play this again, play that again. What about that incident? Like, come on. Like, we're a bit older than that and we're a bit more mature than that. And the whole thing is, like, if they just keep coming out and saying, oh, sorry, like apologising, and then moving on, expecting everyone just to get on with their lives, at some point, someone's got to stand up and say it's not good enough. And Liverpool have done that. And I'm so glad that we did. I'm so glad that we did, because something has to change, something has to give. And also, that's not to mention the fact that this incident, for me, is by far the worst in the history of VAR in the Premier League. Like, I don't want to speak sort of outside of this country, like the MLS, Serie A, they've been using VAR for longer than we have here. But for me, in terms of Premier League, and I'm not just saying it because of Liverpool bias, this is the worst one. Like, it doesn't get any worse. And the audio doesn't help either, let's put it that way. Go for a couple more comments before I do come to some of the quotes from that audio that I want to talk about. Sarah Melling is one of our Discord members. I just want to bring that up now. 1 second. Here we go. Also, we are led to believe this is something completely unique, but Darren England immediately says can't do anything when he's told the game's restarted. Doesn't he need to check what they can do? Yeah, and the whole not being able to do anything, the whole hands being tied once the game's restarted, is utter nonsense as well, for my money. Like, there would have been a common sense element of it if they are so bound by the protocols that meant that none of them could have used a little bit of nous and sort of for the betterments of the game and gone, do you know what? This is an absolute monumental cock-up. We need to just stop the game. I know it's sort of unprecedented, but what we've just done is also unprecedented. Let's get it stopped. There was a throw-in like a matter of seconds after. They could have easily gone, do you know what? This is a bit mad, but we've made a right mess of this. The ref, Simon Hooper, needs to go over to the managers, explain what's happened, award the goal to Liverpool, however you want to do that. Did Liverpool walk the ball in? Did the Tottenham players let Luis Diaz just score into an empty net, basically? Whatever happened, Liverpool had to go 1-0 up in that circumstances. They just had to, and they didn't, because the people in the VAR room, not Ollie Kohout, the only guy in that room with any sense, the guy who was operating the actual videos, the replay operator, not even a referee, was the calmest, the most sensible, seemingly the most intelligent man in that entire room, which says a lot about what we're dealing with, doesn't it? But yeah, it's left us with more questions than answers. I think we were all intrigued by what the audio would sort of reveal. People were talking about corruption. People were talking about sort of just sheer incompetence. People were talking about like a miscommunication. It's just farcical. Like, it really is from start to finish. Like, the line, "Good process, boys, well done," or is it that? Let me just double check. Because it's just, well done, boys, good process. That was said amidst the utter chaos. It beggars belief, quite frankly. And there's another line from the assistant VAR in it, which I wanted to touch upon. And in that, he says the words, it's just a three-word sentence rather. He says, "Offside, goal, yeah." What does that mean? Like, they're not, that's not a sentence, that's just, he's contradicted himself by saying offside, goal. Like, what are they talking about? I don't, honestly, it's so baffling, it really is. And like I say, the fact that when Ollie Cohout, the guy, actually sort of brings it to the attention of Damn England that he's made an absolute balls up of this entire process. There's like a 10-15 second period whereby he almost doesn't want to acknowledge what he's being told. He's like, "Pardon, what? Like, what you're talking about," sort of thing. And then eventually he does. And at that point he said, "I can't do anything." So you're telling me that when there's two balls on the pitch, or when a dog runs on the pitch, or a cat, they stop the game instantly and they just restart play where it's from. But if something as significant as a goal is scored legitimately and is ruled out just because of sheer idiocy, quite frankly, you can't then go, "Oh, by the way, we need to sort this out." It's laughable. It's laughably bad. Like, I was hoping I might change my opinion, or my sort of overriding feeling on how bad the refereeing is in this country. I was hoping the audio might reflect better than that, but it doesn't. It reflects utterly horrendously on them. Like, I don't know where we go from here, which is another point I wanted to bring up. Like, I don't know what Liverpool's next move is. I don't know. Can they not have Damn England officiate on them ever again? Is that something, that a road we want to go down? I mean, in terms of replaying the game and stuff like that and legal action, I'm not sure where we stand with all that. I don't know if it's possible, but it's a mess. It's a real mess. I'll come back to some of the comments now. Before I do, we've got a super chat there from Blake Loomis, $5. Could the goal retrospectively retrospectively, I think you mean, could be retrospectively awarded and the result adjusted? If red card can be retrospectively awarded / rescinded, why not goals short term? So possibly, I don't know. It's unprecedented. I don't know how Tottenham would feel about that. Probably not very happy is the answer. But yeah, I take the point. I think I seen somebody last night say Liverpool could be awarded a goal and a point whilst Tottenham keep all three. I don't know. Sporting integrity and that line was the one that caused the most uproar, I think, because people were almost saying, like, "What are you talking about? How does it sort of bring the game and the sporting integrity of it into disrepute?" But of course it does. Liverpool have lost out on Premier Leagues by a point, by the finest of margins. And I know it's early in the season and Liverpool may not. We may not even be a title challenge yet. I believe we will, but we might not. But let's just say, for argument's sake, God forbid, Liverpool lose out in the Premier League by a point again this season. Like, the first thing every single person is going to point towards is this game, because we were robbed. I said it in the immediate aftermath on my match reaction for our YouTube. Liverpool were robbed there, and that was without knowing all the facts. We now have all the facts, and my opinion remains entirely the same. Liverpool have been genuinely robbed. Whether you believe it's corruption, conspiracy, like I say, sheer incompetence, however you believe it's happened, we've been utterly done out of points. And this, obviously we lose the game 2-1, so sort of adding the goal would mean 2-2, but goals change games. It's 0-0 at that point. You've seen how well Liverpool defended with 9 men, let alone 10. Like, we could have easily hung on with a 1-0 win, in my opinion. We go 1-0 up, that changes the entire landscape of that football match. It just does. And not to mention how boss the finish was from Luis Diaz as well. Like, he's been robbed of a proper finish as well. So, I don't know. It's infuriating is what it is. And like I say, unfortunately, the PGMOL, they had to release the audio, of course they did, because it would have been just a terrible look if they didn't. But they've come out of it even worse than they went into it, if that was possible. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. It really is. I go into some more comments now. Yo Cool says, after he does the lines, he says, check complete, off. Then the replay operator, yeah, that's that Ollie Cohout. Goal given, offside, are you happy? And says, yeah. Yeah. It's a weird turn of phrase. Anyway, the whole thing, I mean, a lot of sort of the discussion around this has been how complicated and how sort of jumbled up the language can be. And I think that's kind of one of the few things that we've had the opinion of going into hearing the audio and come out of with the same opinion, because, like I say, half the sentences don't even make sense. Like, a goal given, offside, are you happy? Goal given, offside, that's another contradiction in terms. Like, I don't know. It's a mess. Axel Mann says he's still annoyed. Nothing has changed by them releasing the audio. No, I agree with that as well. Sam Chapper says, it's insane to me how they decided not to delay the game in the good old name of rules when they just failed to uphold the incredibly important rule. Yeah, like say something as significant as a goal being scored. And there were people, I think it was Ollie, wasn't it? A lot of people under the impression that was that Michael Oliver, but obviously it isn't. It was the replay operator. He was shouting, delay the game. And I think they tried to get that message down to the referee as well at one point, that he had to sort of stop what was going on, but they just didn't. And it was Darren England, or Daz, as he's known to his mates and his buddies, quite clearly, which was one of the more sickening things to come out of the whole thing. That backslapping, nickname calling, good job, boys, smart process, whatever it was, that is just... And that's half the problem as well. Like, we had Mike Dean recently coming out and talking about the Anthony Taylor, the hair pulling one, and saying he didn't send him over because he was having a difficult game and he was looking after his mate. What is this? Like, is it jobs for the boys? Is it watch your mates back and we'll make sure we're all okay in a little unit? Or are we trying to get the right decisions and trying to sort of clear up this utter farce and grey area that remains with VAR? Like, VAR coming in was supposed to stop all this. And obviously, in a way, like, it's good that it hasn't, because it gives people stuff to talk about. There's always going to be controversy in football. We've seen that now. But it turns out even stuff that's supposed to be clear-cut, i.e. offsides, because of the people who are running the system, can still go catastrophically wrong. Mess. Adam Ryhart said, it's just been an absolute shit show from start to finish, Dan. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And again, I want to know what happens next. Like, where do we go from here? Like, VAR is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. We know that now. There's too much money. There's too much investment in it. It's done. Like, we are living. This is the world we live in now. What do we do? Do we get different people in there? Do we have to hear the audio live at the time? Is that a thing? I spoke to a FIFA referee yesterday, and she's also a VAR certified referee. She's a laws analyst. She's a lawyer. So she was absolutely on the money. That's on Redmen Plus now, by the way. Really good chat with her. And she was of the opinion that we need to be playing out more audio. She works in the MLS, not exclusively, but a lot in the MLS, and they are very forthcoming with the audio after these games. Not at the time, like you see in rugby and some other sports, but straight after the game, audio's out there. It's in the public domain. People can listen to how things played out, and I think we need to do that as a minimum. Again, what else we can do to improve the standards, I'm not sure, but what I do know is what we're getting now, what we're getting served up week in, week out now from the officials isn't good enough. Like, this is the best league in the world. We say it all the time. And at the minute, from my point of view, we have some of the worst officials going. It's as simple as that. They are terrible. Yokel comes back with Darren England. Defo had an agenda not to give that goal for whatever reason. I don't want to go down that particular rabbit hole personally, but there was a weird, I was saying this to Chris before I went live, there was a weird 10-second, 15-second part of that audio whereby the replay operator is trying to tell him that he's made a grave error and he's made a huge mistake, and Darren England is almost oblivious to it, or he's trying to like avoid it and sort of get play back up and running. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry, like, yeah, what, pardon? And then the game's going, and then he says, I can't do anything now. It's very odd. Very, very odd. Nathan Weiss says he's bored of this now. Nothing will come of it, so we just need to move on and crack on with the season. Okay, I mean, I get that, because we will have to do that at some point. But I'm glad Liverpool have held them to account up until this point. You're right, you might be right in terms of we've got the audio now. Liverpool have got their audio now. Liverpool may just draw a line under it and say, not good enough, got to do better. And I do think there will be changes in laws on the back of this. I think being able to stop the game will change because it just has to. We've seen that here. Maybe we'll get more audio after the fact as well. That could be another change that's implemented. The language and the communication, the way they speak to each other might change as well because, again, check complete hasn't proved to be fit for purpose in this instance, has it? So I get where you're coming from Liverpool perspective, and we will have to move on. We've got a game tomorrow night. We're not still going to be talking about this for much longer. But Liverpool and we as a fan base were right to take it this far because it needed to. It's a disgrace. Robbie Fairhair says, morning Dan, morning mate. I want to hear the audio of the Jones sending off too. I don't believe in coincidences, but I'm sorry, England is just whispers, perfect followed, check complete, and says too late. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. Issa says, what do you think Liverpool's next move? Is now one of our members, by the way. Do you think anything can happen or all done and dusted? Honestly, I believe all done and dusted. And yeah, as you say, just a lesson going forwards. That's my kind of take on it, to be fair. I don't think anything in terms of replaying games, additional points, legal action, I don't see it. I really don't. Like I say, Liverpool could have a case for requesting that Darren England isn't on any of our games moving forward. I think that's a line Liverpool could go down. But outside of that, I think we'll just push for better standards, better clarity, better use of the technology, better transparency after the fact as well, like I say, when it comes to after games. And what was really annoying in all of this was that, obviously watching the coverage, they didn't show a single replay of it. They showed like the first one whereby all of us went, that's dodgy, that looks onside. Didn't see it again. They didn't talk about it at half time. So just that brushing it under the carpet, did you think we're just going to forget about it? Like, and just go, that was weird, wasn't it? And move on with our lives. No, like, you're living in the modern day world whereby everything can be repeated, everything can be rewound, and we're just going to watch it over and over again. It was Twitter, social media was ablaze on Saturday night before like the game had finished. Everyone knew there'd been an injustice. Everyone knew Liverpool had been robbed of a perfectly legitimate goal. Like, how were they telling Sky not to sort of talk about it? How were the PGMOL not front and centre facing up to this? And I've seen some praise for the PGMOL for releasing this audio so quickly. We played on Saturday night and we got the audio on Tuesday night. Is that quick? Really? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think they just could have been better, personally. And Alex Mann's kind of references the same point. Sky being a PGMOL mouthpiece bothers me as well. All of them trying to talk... Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Trying to talk about sympathy for the incompetence displayed by VAR. Yeah. I think the biggest thing there for me is the fact that they've been talking so much about respecting the referees. And whilst I get that and agree with it, respect is earned. Like, it really, really is. And if you're producing displays that fall below the standard required week in, week out, you then almost cannot turn around and ask for a certain level of respect. Not in terms of, like, you shouldn't be disrespecting them, but when it comes to the job that you're doing, you earn respect in that role, and they're not. Like, I can't sit here and tell you now, out of the referees we have in this country, which one of them I would like to see refereeing Liverpool game on the weekend. I just can't. And that is just a terrible state of affairs. It really is. And that's not just a Liverpool thing, by the way. I appreciate I will be Liverpool biased because look where I am, look what I support. But the refs in general, week in, week out, are way, way, way below what we need. Anxiety says, one day the Premier League will thank us for what we did. They don't even realise this is for the benefit of everyone. Honestly, it's outstanding. Yeah, I agree with you there, mate, 100%. Like I said earlier, the shift in narrative around it when Liverpool decided it wasn't good enough and they weren't just going to take it lying down and brush it under the carpet was staggering. Like, we were doing it to improve standards and to make sure they were held to account for what had happened, not because we wanted more points or the game replaying. I mean, might have been nice, but, you know, that wasn't our reasoning behind it. I don't think it ever was. Rav D says, after watching semi-automated offside yesterday, we must integrate it into the Prem. Yeah, I agree with you. It might, I mean, you didn't need it for this one. It was so clear-cut. but it might clear up the ease of use. And like I say, that complete breakdown in communication that we've seen obviously on the weekend. Matthew Lowe with a super chat there. Good day, Dan. Watching that game in Sydney at 3:30 a.m. and witnessing that was just a disgrace. The audio was just hilarious at this point, speechless. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. It was hilarious. Like, it was laughably bad. Thank you so much, by the way, for the super chat and stuff. I appreciate that. And Sydney, love Sydney. Spent a bit of time there when I was younger. But yeah, I agree with that as well. It was laughably bad. It really was. And Dom Sobo Lear says he was playing dumb. Yeah, it felt a bit like that, didn't it? It really did feel a little bit like that. It was really odd to hear, and I can't get my head around why. Like, it was that Ollie was so adamant and so persistent in what he was saying and kind of alerting them to the fact that they'd really made a huge, huge mistake. And yet, assistant VAR and the actual VAR just seemed to be like, yeah, everything's fine, let's get on with it, let's game. And then once the game had started, then they kind of acknowledge it and say, oh, I can't do anything now, mate, it's too late. Okay. Yeah, JMG to that point as well. Ollie wants you to delay. No, can't change it. Yeah, okay, sound. Big Almighty, it sounds like he didn't want to hear it then. By the time he listened, he didn't want it to stop. Yeah, and listen, I'm just talking about, like, that's just my take on it. That's how I have interpreted what I heard. They don't come out smelling the roses. They were never likely to. Of course they were. Now, though, takes me on to the next point, which I will discuss now before I head off. Dan, why do they not consider Curtis' intentions in going for the ball, but they expect us to listen to their intentions? They meant well with the mistake. Yeah, if Curtis just apologised and said, I didn't mean to do it, it was a human error, maybe they got away with it. But my overriding feeling on the Curtis Jones red card and sort of the implementation of VAR in that actually stinks a little bit as well, to be honest with you, because for me, the reason I think Liverpool appealed that, I don't think they ever thought sort of the challenge itself warranted an appeal, because you can argue all day about that being a red card or not. I agree with you. Obviously, he's going for the ball. He tries to sort of roll his foot over the ball to bring it back to himself, to control it. So it's a harsh red card. He never meant to do what he did. But ultimately, unfortunately, he ends up flipping over the ball a little bit and going into, is it Basuma? Goes into Basuma sort of shin high with stood showing. So in the cold light of day, you could consider that maybe a red card offence. Of course you could, despite the fact I take the point about intentions and force and all that kind of stuff. However, my biggest issue with that is the fact that when the VAR tells Simon Hooper to go over to the monitor to look at it because he's made a mistake. I mean, Jamie Carragher was telling us they don't go over there, tell him have a second look. They tell him they've made a mistake, they need to change their opinion. So that stinks a little bit in itself. But the fact that when he gets there, even before he gets there, he's looking at the worst possible still image. Like, just the worst possible still image you could possibly see. And then you see like one or two angles from behind, not even the clearest of angles, all slowed down, by the way, to make it look even worse. That's odd. And that's apparently not in the protocol either. I don't think the use of still images helps anyone. They need to be shown it in real time, start to finish, two or three times over if they need it, different angles, a slow-mo if you really, really need it. But still images, like front and centre of the screen for 10, 15 seconds when he gets there. Of course he's going to send him off. I'd send him off if I'd seen that. Like, you're making the ref's decision for him. You're basically putting his hand in his pocket, getting the red card out and sending him off. It's done. Curtis Jones may as well looked over that screen and gone, well, that's me then. He could have gone and got a shower straight away. He wasted 15 seconds of his life waiting for a decision because the still image is so damning. It was never in doubt, was it? And I think that's why Liverpool appealed it, like I say, because they've looked at that and gone, that can't be right. It can't be right. The actual red card in itself, you can't argue with too much. I don't think it is, but you can't really kick off about it like you can with the offside, for instance. But the actual implementation of how they came to that decision is rotten, utterly rotten. Like I say, Darren England, our mate Daz, again, basically doing us and saying they are, send him off, get rid. And then what happened after that? Like, what I don't understand as well Axel Mans, by the way, welcome, first teamer, mate. Appreciate that. I've got the board somewhere. I'll write you on our board afterwards, but thank you. Nice to have you on board. What I don't understand as well is apparently Simon Hooper, whenever Simon Hooper, the referee, found out what had happened, at that point, like, I don't want him to go completely biased towards Liverpool, but you'd think if he'd have known, like at half-time, say, oh, Liverpool have been completely done here. Like, we've given, a goal has been disallowed and it was perfectly legitimate, perfectly well executed, really good counter-attack goal. You'd have thought in the second half he might have tried to balance up play a little bit, but instead he doubled down. He sent Diogo Jota off for 2 yellows, the first of which is the softest yellow card you will ever see. He then booked Mohamed Salah for reasons still unbeknownst to me. I've got no idea what he booked Salah for. Like, literally no idea. Like, probably just for existing on the football pitch is my only take on it. It was a joke of a refereeing performance from all involved. The only person to come out of this whole situation with any credit in the bank, really, is our guy Ollie, the replay operator, because he's the one. It's not even his job. He's not a referee. He's not the guy making decisions, and yet he was the only one in that room with any semblance of common sense. He was the calmest in the room, and he was the first one to spot the fact that they'd just given offside to an onside goal. So, yeah, other than that, like, the rest of them come out stinking from it, quite frankly. Anyway, I've stopped ranting now. I'll go through some more of your comments before I wrap up. But yeah, honestly, God, I haven't had a chance to speak about it much, other than like immediately after the fact on Saturday night. As you can probably tell. Yeah. Anyway, I will calm down. I promise. It's just terrible. So, like I say, I don't know where we go from here. It's getting worse and worse. We're dealing with incompetence of the very highest order. Howard Webb, it's got worse since he's been there, quite frankly. It was bad before. The standards are just plummeting. They're deteriorating. They really are. Does he need to go? Do some of the referees need to go? Do we need to find referees from elsewhere? Do we need to go abroad for our referees? Like, do we need to cherry pick the best from the Serie A, the Bundesliga, La Liga, whatever? Probably, because we can't go on like this much longer. The rules definitely need changing. That's first and foremost. Like, the fact that you can't go back and rectify such a grave, horrendous error, that's laughable, that's abysmal, that needs changing. We need more clarity, more transparency on VAR and the audio. That needs to be standard now. Like, when there's been a bad decision, the audio just needs releasing. Public domain, everyone needs to hear it. We're the lifeblood of the game, fans. We're what makes football tick, whether they like it or not. We just are. We've seen that with the Super League and the uproar that caused. So we need to know what's going on, and we don't know what's going on anywhere near often enough. So yeah, that's some of the changes I'd make straight away. You could go further than that. You really, really could. You could sweep it clean with an entire new broom. But yeah, anyway, I'll pop. Oh, okay, Ronnie, that's not kind. I'll pop into our Discord for 1 second, get some of their chats up. Nathan Weiss says, bring back Kalina, best ref ever. Yeah, I don't think Everton fans would agree with you there. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. We just need better referees, don't we? Let's put it that way. Craig Flynn says it will happen again because the match officials are idiots. Yeah, 100%. You'll never walk alone. Says it's not the full audio. 49 seconds. You can clearly hear off. Check complete. Yeah, that's fine. Off. Who says that? Why isn't it a transcript? What else did the voice say? Ronnie. Anyway, yeah. I'm just going through comments now. Yeah, I'll wrap up in 1 second. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything important. Yeah, that's a good point, actually, yeah. Pranay Sinner says, why is no one talking about the penalty on Gomez? There are multiple things like this in the game, so it wasn't just a mistake, this was an agenda. Yeah, the Gomez penalty, yeah. That's because people don't talk about it because the other incident was so bad. Like, the offside has taken all the headlines because it was just abysmal. Like, some of the penalty and like the Jones red card and even the Jota red card to a certain extent, you could argue one way or the other. But when there's something as blatantly, horrendously wrong as the offside, that's always going to be the main talking point. And always when you bring something else up, it's just been overshadowed, hasn't it? It's not as obvious, it's not as bad, it's not as negligent, it's not as incompetent, so on and so forth. Yeah, I will start to wrap up. Anyway, a lot of people say we just need to move on, and I tend to agree. I think we will have to move on. But again, like I said, the audio came out last night. It's worth talking about. The referees involved have absolutely panicked. They've just crumbled under the pressure, and that isn't good enough. They've made a horrendous decision. And the fact that they were sort of, like I say, they were backslapping, they were sort of praising each other. Well done, boys. Good process. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're up against. It's so poor. It truly is. I will start to wrap up. Before I do so, I want to tell you all you happy Christmas-loving people out there, the Redmen TV's Christmas jumper for this year is now live on the store. Look at that, seamless. There it is. It is an absolute beauty. Inspired by our Premier League winning goalkeeping kit, of course, Alisson Becker. You could just see him in that, can't you, Alisson? Yeah, it's so good. 6-time champions Europe there. It's got all the trophies at the bottom there as well. On the back, it says, have a good one. Obviously, number 1. Nice touch. It says, you'll never walk alone. You'll in Christmas ways. Obviously, it's got managers on the back too. It's just glorious. It really is. That is available on the Redmen merch store now, as you can see. Pre-orders until the 16th of October. And the other two there, they're last year's version. They are available at a markdown price. So make sure you get them in your basket as well, because they're also equally as stunning, equally as beautiful. But yeah, make sure you get over there now. They are limited edition. They will sell out. They're already flying out, if I'm going to be brutally honest. So make sure you do not miss out. Get yourselves one, because they are stunning. They truly are. And yeah, I will wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved. It's massively appreciated, as always. Thanks to the new member. I will get you on the board too. And yeah, as I say, like, so it's frustrating, and I get some people like, let's just move on with our lives now. Ultimately, we have to. Liverpool will have to move on, and that starts tomorrow night against Union St. Gilloise. We'll be back on YouTube in about half an hour's time with our match preview for that, so make sure you keep your eyes out there. If you're not already, head over to redmenplus.com, get involved. That conversation I had with the referee will be on there. It already is, and we've got loads more good stuff coming up as well. So until next time, thanks for getting involved as ever. Take it easy.
Thank you so very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.